I know, gotta stay. Okay, we're gonna get started. Everybody, welcome to our Selma City Council regular meeting. It's April 1st, 2024 at 6:04 PM in the Selma City Council chambers at 1710 Tucker Street in Selma. Teleconference phone number is 301-715-8592. The webinar ID is 891-6864-5005. When on the phone, if you wish to address the council during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 to raise your hand, and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press *6 to unmute and mute yourself. Tonight's invocation is led by Pastor Kealoha Keapana from the Christ Ribbon Church. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Mayor, council, it's nice to see you all. God bless you. Chief, Fire Chief Jordan, nice to see you guys. All right, everyone. Without further ado, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. And as always, God, when we pray, we want to make it a personal time with you, Lord. So first we say and acknowledge you as the God of all. You're holy and perfect in every way. And we thank you, God, for that. And Lord, with that said, now we just pray, Lord, for every need in this room. Lord, for the need, God, in this city. Lord, for the need of help everywhere we go. And Father, for the choices made by our wonderful council and mayor. God, this is a strong city and a strong town. The Lord will always will need your hand to push and gently move our decisions so that everything we do, Lord, can be abiding by your will. So the last bit of this prayer, Lord, is nothing more than just to say, God, let your will be done. Whatever you want, whatever you decide, God is the best thing for us all and for this city. So I pray that favor, the favor of your hand upon this council, our mayor, Lord, our staff, Chief Rudy, Chief Jordan, God, protection upon our first responders. Bless this meeting. Name of Jesus. With that said, we say amen.
Amen.
God bless. And I promise I'm not sick. I just lost my voice. Love you guys. Thank you.
Bye. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Here.
Mayor Robertson.
I'm here. Potential conflicts of interest. Any council member who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Agenda changes or deletions to better accommodate members of the public or inconvenience in the order of presentation. Items on the agenda may not be presented or acted upon in the order listed. Additions to the agenda may be added only pursuant to California Government Code Section 54954.2B. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes and are asked to direct their comments towards the city council only. Do we have any oral communications at this time? Anybody online or on the phone? That will bring the matter back. We have no special presentation scheduled tonight, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar category are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and made part of the regular agenda. The council can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Does any council member have an item they would like removed tonight?
Yes, item F.
Which one?
F.
Okay, I would like to remove item C. Do we have anybody else who would like to remove an item tonight? Is there a motion to approve items A, B, D, E, G, H, and I?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, call the roll, please.
We'll go with Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item C, just clarification. And I think we have an EDC rep tonight, or I used to be real. Thank you. I was just looking at the contract. What does the city actually receive from for the CVT program?
Our economic development analyst or manager here. Thank you. I'll defer to her. I know, so just really quick before she begins. So we've always, historically, the city has received administrative personnel costs involved with coordinating the Central Valley Training Center activities. And this year, we've expanded that scope to include outreach as well. But as far as the specific dollar amounts, I'll let Ms. Aguirre discuss that.
Give me one moment to pull up that budget and we can go over it.
It just looked different from the last agreement. That's why
It
I
is,
asked.
it is more funding, so it is a little different. Give me 1 second.
Like a lot more.
And while Ms. Aguirre is pulling that up, I will say that the EDC has also stepped up their participation as well. They have received a large amount of funding through the Great Jobs Challenge, a national grant program. And so that's allowed them to be more flexible in their participation in this event. So that's also contributed to higher allocation to the city because now we can do more as far as our own scope goes. But go ahead.
Yeah, so covered under that contract is administrative costs for the City of Selma for staff, and then the 3 positions total. So an administrator of a contract oversight, and then our economic development position for a total of 266, 143, 68. And then in terms of the rest of the line items, the EDC administers the program. So and them and their subcontractors are the remainder of that contract for a total of 2 million. So that's what that contract will look like for the next 2 years. And it's for, and I believe the end date on that contract is February 28th of 2026.
Got it, but the city has to pay all those expenses out of that $2 million pot for this program, or is the city actually putting
No, we're being reimbursed those personnel costs.
the 344?
The 266.
I'm sorry, the
146.
266, 143.
Correct, yes.
Got it. And to get those reimbursement, does the city actually have to show
Yes.
the actual payroll being devoted towards those
We keep
activities?
accurate time records of our time spent on the program, as well as itemized receipts and any other materials that are purchased.
And if it turns out it's 166, the city gets 166, or does it get the 266?
It's whatever's spent. Mhm.
Okay, so that's just a budget amount. It doesn't necessarily hit the 266.
We allocate our time accordingly to make sure that we because the 266 is also budgeted for kind of what we anticipate to spend on the program. So the number is pretty accurate in terms of the amount of time devoted to the program.
Got it. And you know how much to devote towards that program. Okay.
So,
Thank
in regards to getting in the weeds of things, we pick 3 staff members in our day-to-day budget. And we let them know that they have to they're involved and they're justifying their hourly, and we send that back of what the cost is.
Correct. We
That's
do.
kind of getting into the weeds, but that's the way we break down the account.
Yes. I mean, we don't pick, we have 3 staff members, yes.
Got it. It just looked like a lot more funding this year due to the grant funding the city manager referenced. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Do we need to approve this item or is there a motion to approve this consent item?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, next item.
The only reason I pulled it is just I wanted a separate vote. That was it. Whoever wants to make a motion.
Let me orient myself on this. You pulled off item F, consideration of a resolution approving a request for a fee waiver for Fresno P flag.
Correct.
Okay.
I have no discussion. Like I said, I just wanted a separate vote.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve item F?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
No.
Councilmember Trujillo.
no,
Okay, on to item 1 of the regular business, consideration of a resolution awarding the contract to Dawson Malden LLC for the Amberwood Specific Plan Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project.
City engineer?
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. This item before you is recommendation to award the construction project for the Amberwood Sewer Trunk Main. This is a project that we've been working on for a while. It is to satisfy the Amberwood specific plan for the residential homes on the east part of town. The plans, specifications were all prepared by the city through Umabi and Horn. The plans were reviewed by SKF, reviewed by Fresno County, and put out to bid. There was a public bid held, and on March 7th, the bid opening occurred. We received 3 bids. The apparent lowest bidder was Dawson Malden. Their construction cost was the 5.8 million. We're recommending award to Dawson Malden after reviewing their bid, all of the documents required in the specifications. It was the lowest responsible bid. So we are recommending that you award this project with the construction cost, a contingency, and the construction management costs. Funding for this project has been done through the bond funds that the council has been working on and approved. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those questions, but I would recommend that we award this project.
Any questions
Yeah,
for
I
the
have a
city
couple of
engineer?
questions. Mr. Horn, I just had this developer ask me on the other side of, I would say Rose Avenue, where there's about 15 acres. Is that going to also reach that area if they choose to develop?
So this trunk main does go all the way from Saginaw at the south, up Amber Avenue. It goes past Rose Avenue, goes up to, I believe, Floral Avenue, and then to the west a little bit. So any of the development that's within the master plan and that specific plan, this trunk main is designed to accommodate all of that development.
Okay, so Amber, you're talking, you're going towards east on Rose. Amber, okay. Yeah, so that would cover his property. Okay.
There's certain projects, as you go farther east,
Mhm.
there's another master plan trunk main even farther east. So I'm not sure how far past Amber, if you're talking about land
Yeah.
past Amber. Okay.
It's before Amber.
And if I could add, there's been projects recently submitted, we could talk about it during the development presentation, that developers developing on Rose have already been told to connect to the Amberwood line. So applications that are already in process,
Mhm.
we've told them that until this line is in, you either have to wait or connect when it's in. So developers that are already in process are already aware of where they need to go.
Okay, great.
About Dinuba. Does it connect to Dinuba as well? Any Dinuba developments?
Not that far. I think the Amberwood specific plan is obviously on the east side of
That's the
town. The Dinuba Avenue trunk main that's under design now the trunk main is in Dinuba Avenue, but it's flowing towards the west.
And I believe the city applied for another sale of sale of bonds to finance development of a sewer trunk line for Dinuba. Is that correct in the future?
Correct. We were essentially pre-approved for that project whenever the plans are ready to go out to bid.
Thank you.
Couple of comments and you know, I've been involved in development or sales of concrete. I'm happy that I see these three developers or construction companies because I would have rather seen Floyd Johnson, but I mean, we see the figure. But I'm happy that we have someone there, and especially that it's here, a community member here. You know, that's one of the comments, but the other one is, you know, this is a long awaited. You know, this is something that we've needed in our community. And, you know, thanks that we have a council that's looking for the future, where these are investments that are going to actually unstrap a lot of construction, a lot of development. A lot of these projects are going to start coming out to us, but at the same time, we need to see, are they in the sphere of influence or are they in the city? That's a key. So let's just keep that in mind when we start talking about projects, because at the end of the day, we might have projects that are in the sphere of influence, but that are not in adjacent of the city, which has a lot of issues with COG or issues that they have to actually to protect on that part. But in regards to this project, I'm really proud of this because this is something that we've been talking about for many years, and this is what we're going to start, and this is our movement. So for that, I commend you for all the hard work you've done and all the projects, the bid process.
Question, 22% spread between the bids. Is Malden's surety going to have any issues with bonding this?
Not that I'm aware of. They submitted all the documents that were required with the specs.
Okay.
We've had no conversations or no requests from them after the bid opening.
They submitted with a bid bond. Good. Okay. Comments? Anybody from the public? Anybody online on the phone?
As a reminder to the caller online, use your raise your hand feature, which is *9, and we will add you to the meeting queue. Mayor Robertson, I see no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. And then is there any timeline about that they've indicated in putting in the actual line in?
So the specs actually have a defined project window that we decided and told the contractors that they have to construct it within a certain window. I don't know that number off the top of my head right now, but it's in the specs. They bid it based on that period of time. And I believe on this project, we actually tried to add a few days to make sure that we got numbers that were able to meet our funding. But if awarded, we do our pre-construction meeting. And at that pre-construction meeting, they provide their schedule, and the construction management team then meets regularly and works through that project.
Got it. Thank you.
If I recall correctly, it was a 4 to 6 month window. Is that correct?
I believe so. It's in that January time period of next month.
When they'll be done?
When they'll be finished, yeah. 180 days from the start of the construction.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other debate, is there any?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Is there a
second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item 2, proposal for adopting a new city logo for Selma.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. I'm going to pull up a presentation, but as you guys may or may not know, the city has been undergoing the process of a rebrand for a new city logo, and I just kind of want to give an update on that process and provide you guys with the logo that we've brought forth for recommendation and adoption. Okay. So The process was split up into two phases. Phase one, which is kind of reaching completion now and we're bringing before you, is the design. That includes the logo, the tagline, a color scheme, and a standalone graphic. The second phase will consist of a marketing blueprint, which is a unified communication strategy to be implemented across city departments, and it's specifically tailored to meet the needs of our community here in Selma. So a little bit about the methodology. We kicked off with a survey. The goal of the survey was to uncover what imagery is associated with the city of Selma, what cherished memories people have here, and the values that define Selma. Then the feedback, then the team took back, synthesized the survey feedback, and then we went through a process of revisions, making sure that what was being designed was in cohesion with the feedback that was received from the survey. So the surveys clearly indicated that Selma was a city experiencing growth, progress, and it was rooted in tradition, but it was in need of a modern brand to complement its advancements. And we contracted with Golden Shovel Agency to kind of complete this process. Some of the findings from the survey, when asked, what do you think are the core beliefs in our community and what Selma has to stand for? A city on the rise, a city on the move. People saw potential and growth coming, good things happening here, rich in opportunity. And when asked, what do you believe people should feel when they're experiencing the brand of Selma? A city that can offer a good living and all the necessities that a big city can offer, hope for the future, and hope for overall growth. Our goals for the rebrand include being able to attract new businesses with cohesive messaging and then showcasing the quality of life that exists within Selma, both for our internal audiences and for external audiences. So if you guys are ready, I feel like it needs to be dramatic. I need a drum roll. All right. So this is the logo and tagline being brought forth for recommendation. If you will notice, the grape leaf emerging from the letter E nods to Selma's agricultural legacy, notably its historical title as the raisin capital of the world. The leaf's curve toward the letter S doesn't just imply growth, but it also symbolizes a deliberate pivot towards the future. It suggests that Selma's proactive in its approach to explore new sectors, new opportunities, and it indicates a path towards economic resilience and sustainability. But it's not just a nod to the past, it's also a symbol of growth, a shift towards diversification, and highlighting Selma's readiness to embrace a broader spectrum of economic activities. We were really going for a logo that's timeless in its design and just transcends a single industry. We wanted something versatile that captures the essence of Selma's heritage while also projecting a vision of progress and adaptability. The tagline, "Where Good Things Grow," embodies our commitment to fostering a thriving community where opportunities flourish and quality of life is key. It conveys a sense of abundance and prosperity and suggests that Selma is not just a good place to live, but it's also a great place to thrive. So the tagline and the logo will be a powerful marketing tool just to communicate the appeal of Selma as a destination for our residents, for businesses seeking a vibrant and sustainable environment. And we thought it was the best logo that positions Selma just to be able to market it as a place where good things grow. And then getting into the colors, they're what we would call pretty harmonious and timeless. The deep blue tone suggests a sense of depth, stability, and the green symbolizes growth, renewal, and optimism for the future. Together, the colors convey a harmonious balance between tradition and progress, which pretty much captures Selma. And we did go through a couple revision processes, so these were kind of the finalists. And so we wanted to showcase these two just to kind of show you guys the creative process and thinking that went into it. And then just to kind of get you guys thinking about how exciting this rebrand is, I wanted to provide some mock-ups so you guys can don't have to close your eyes and picture the logo. You can look up at the screen and picture what's up ahead. And then lastly, that's all I have.
Thank
But we
you.
can go back to the slide where the logo's on so you guys can take another look at it. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Bring the matter back to the council. Does council have any comments or questions for Ms. Aguirre? Any comments about the logo? I got a question. The round ones at the bottom, sorry about that. Is that a seal that's going to replace the seal of Selma, or is this purely a marketing logo for marketing only?
You're correct.
I thought that from the description, but I saw the round part at the bottom. It looked like it was replacing the seal.
No, those are just kind of standalone so that we have different options. But I didn't mean to cut them off. While I would mention that the logo is not going to replace the city seal, we do intend to update our city seal to kind of better reflect maybe the logo, and whether it's through color scheme. We haven't necessarily started our update, but it will likely down the line be updated to just create a more cohesive brand with the logo.
And great job, Ms. Aguirre. Our Economic Development Manager has really taken the reins on this project and has kind of herded all the cats to get to a point where we can all agree on a logo. But the intention was for us to be able to have a very versatile logo that we can use and that will be recognizable, that is not difficult to replicate on signage, on embroidery, on vehicles and things like that. As the mayor mentioned, our seal is still very much our city seal, and that is not going to change. It does probably need an update, as Ms. Aguirre mentioned, but at the end of the day, what this logo will provide is a lot of versatility in terms of how we present the image of the city to new businesses, potential new residents, and really anybody who comes to the city of Selma.
And what's the process for this? Is this just a consideration tonight or an approval of this going forward, or what are we doing?
Yeah, so this is what staff is recommending that the city council approve for us to begin using in all throughout our marketing materials and communications. And what will come of it, as Ms. Aguirre mentioned earlier, through our marketing blueprint, is we're developing guidelines that all staff is gonna follow. When we're putting out communications, these are the fonts, these are the colors, these are the appropriate uses of those images. And just so that we have a very cohesive way and consistent way of communicating Selma's brand to the public.
Can I see the samples again of all four of them? There's one with an orange. See it a little. Not that well.
First one strikes me more than any of them. The leaves, I don't really get the leaves. Those are grape leaves? Okay. When I think of grapes, I think of the grapes themselves. I think of the leaves.
I think the fourth one. But the fourth one looks nicer. But. Third one.
So is that green with black or is it green with this blue?
It's a dark blue.
It's a dark blue, okay.
That's probably what throwing us off right there, is that it looks like black, but it should be blue.
Just to be clear, staff's recommendation is the one at the very bottom. And that's what we're recommending for adoption.
On here.
Mhm. Yes,
And that's not black, that's blue, correct?
it's
Yeah.
that deep blue. Mhm.
We have any comments from the public? Anybody like stand up? Get up. Come on up. Let us know what you think. Mr. Singh.
You may not want to hear that. Good evening. My name's Harvey Singh, and I live at 7425 East Dinuba Avenue. Obviously, I was not here for this. This just happened to be a sidebar. I'm here from another matter, but I'm glad I'm here today for a couple of reasons. One was the news on the ongoing sewer situation that might take care of itself. As far as this rebranding Selma, I mean, I personally don't get it, and I don't see what the value is, and I don't particularly agree with any of that. With all due respect, obviously, they put a ton of time, well, and I respect the ton of time. But what's going on, we've got a fantastic logo right behind you, and that's what we all grew up with, our parents did, and that's something that really captures the imagination of the world or of the area. Selma's raising, even though we're no longer the racing capital, but we've had that moniker ever since I came to this country 55 years, and we've been noted for that. And all of a sudden, you've got this newfangled grape leaf that you can't figure out it's a leaf or what. You got no other than imagination, and you got the fancy wording, things to grow. I think if you put it back up, it'll show things to grow. What's that all about?
Things grow.
What, you leave all this to imagination. That one doesn't leave anything to imagination. You see a bunch, you see the world, you see the moniker, that stands out. That's a tested moniker like Fowler's sign, Clovis Rodeo sign, any of the valleys that have all those monikers. Those are test of time, all this. I personally wouldn't care for it. If you can't even tell a grape leaf from another leaf, you want to see some leaves, I'll send you a snapshot of my office where I've done a mural on top. I mean, you want to see some bunches, how things are done. This, I think, is, to me, this is absolute different direction and Selma need to go. You want to concentrate on what you guys want to do. You want to concentrate what's good. Just putting the fancy word, things will grow. That doesn't mean anything if you don't do anything at any level, okay? But for me, I wouldn't go with any of this, but one person's voice. And I wasn't here for this, up here on another matter, but this caught my attention and this is absolutely a waste of time.
Anyone else?
Jim Avalo, 1701 Dinuba. You know, there's an old saying in the past, that assembly behind you guys, he's right. It symbolized the world market in this city of Selma. And when people look at it, identify it. When you see something like that, they don't know where it came from. You know, what city of Selma? Alabama? You know what I mean? There's, this way identifies who we are in our community, and they identify it, they acknowledge it real fast because it stands out. The grape, raising capital of the world, the city of Selma, California. You know what I mean? There's an old saying, it ain't broken, don't fix it. It stands out, leave it alone. Thank you.
Teresa Salas, 1701 Dinuba. It looks very nice, but that's our city seal. This is a logo. When I worked for the city, we had the little round circle grape things and we had little pins and things on it. It doesn't catch any, I mean, I don't know if you remember it. I remember it because I worked here, but it's not something that stands out. A logo, I know we would put it on the top of some of our letterheads and stuff, but anything official would be the city seal. So I don't know what the point of it is to do something that's not very many people are going to see, at least not that I'm aware of, because I remember our thing, but we didn't really use it for anything. We had that little logo seal. We had a couple pins made. We had it on some t-shirts and stuff, but it wasn't anything that stood out and that carried over long-term. I mean, none of you guys know or remember it. So I mean, I understand wanting to give the city a new face, but I don't know where you're going to market it at, how it's going to be presented.
Any additional comments? Come on up and mask.
Selma's a small town,
Oh,
Carmen Hill,
Thank you.
Selma Mobile Estates. I'm just wondering, it's time for a change. I agree with that. Selma needs to update what they have. That being said, this logo that looked at, that's going to be on the work trucks, cars, what? Where's it going to be? Is it going to be on letterhead? Is it going to be on memos? What?
Thank you for your question. Bringing it back to the council, city manager, economic development, community development, economic development director. Thank you. Economic development manager Aguirre, thank you. Where will this logo be displayed?
That's a great question. External communications in terms of, so just really quick, if I can tie it all back, a lot of great questions were raised about what is the point of a rebrand? And when I mentioned our methodology, we kickstarted with a survey, and very clearly we heard from the community that they wanted more communication in terms of newsletters. One of the questions was, what's your preferred method of communication? I would say it was evenly distributed between people wanting newsletters, people wanting social media posts, and that gave a clear signal to the city that we needed to and really get serious and strategic about our communication across all departments so that people are aware of the programs that are being offered, the changes that are happening, the next event that's going on, so that it's not a week later and people are like, wait, what happened? Just making sure that communication is getting out to the public. And it's very near and dear to my heart because it's economic development in terms of when people are looking for a city to relocate to. A brand is per se kind of the introduction to the city. The seal, I think it was Mr. Harvey that mentioned, it's very similar to the Clovis one, to the Fowler one. And that's typically the purpose of a rebrand is you have your seal and you pay homage to it. The brand, the logo is for external communication so that you can really distinguish yourself as a city. A lot of city seals look alike. They're kind of that circle stamp seal. But the logo is intended to kind of be that identifier. So to answer your question, Mayor, where would it be used? External communications across city departments, which means anytime we're communicating to the public something, whether it's via a newsletter, via social media, via a letter that we're mailing out to the public, notifying them for an invitation of some sort, that's when the logo would be used.
Would it be on the vehicles as well, all the city vehicles as they get repainted or redecaled?
I think as they get repainted and as we grow our fleet, there's an opportunity to use those logos on there, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Is there somebody with their hand raised online on the phone?
Hi, caller ending in 657. Your line is open. Please use *6 to unmute your line.
Hello?
Hi, can you state your name, please?
Stella Ramirez, Selma, California.
Thank you, Stella. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I was calling in reference to the logo. And I think earlier somebody said, if it's not broken, why fix it? I totally agree with that. This logo, it seems a little plain for me, a little simple. It just has a leaf and it doesn't really say much. We're the growing capital of the world. Our agriculture here is great. As daughter of a farmer, I think that really identifies Selma, who we are, what we're about. And I think that if we're going to make any changes, can they add on there like some grapes or something, because that's what we're about. A leaf doesn't really tell you much. So I want to say, either don't fix it, or if you're going to fix it, add some grapes on there to identify us, because that's what we're known for. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, we're gonna bring it back. Okay, with that being it for public comment, we'll bring it back to council. Does council have any more comments?
I have a comment. I didn't want to be the Debbie Downer because I didn't participate in this, but I'll tell you, I am not happy with this at all. I have to say, if we're going to brand our city, we want something that's gonna pop, that's gonna stand out. It's gonna really make Selma look even better. But the seal symbolizes strength. It always has, and it symbolizes who we are. And that's who I believe Selma's, we have strength. Lady on the phone said the grapes symbolize our agriculture. That's true. We do. We have a lot of farmers, a lot of people that actually worked in the fields. But I just don't think that this new logo really gives it that pop or even comes close to what we have. So I have to say, you know, I'm disappointed. I wouldn't like to move, I wouldn't want to move to even change it if this is what it's going to look like. If we consider something that's really going to be outstanding, then I can consider it, but something like this, I can't.
I agree. I don't have a problem with change as long as the change is better, but just to change for change's sake, no. That could be worse or, you know, a lateral move, and I don't think anybody wants that. I think changing the logo like this really does change the identity of the city, and I get the purpose, but this, you know, what I'm looking at doesn't really distinguish Selma from a lot of other cities or a lot of other logos of the city. So I think it's fine to keep looking and hopefully we'll find it. We're getting closer, but I don't think that this is the landing point. I don't think the leaves connote the agricultural connection to the grapes that we've always had. And I think we should, you know, hold on to that at the same time developing a logo that reflects our other qualities in Selma, like the inclusiveness and the acceptance of all cultures, you know, which most of us have. That's Selma, you know, and I think we want to find a logo that captures that. And I don't think we're under any pressure per se to just change it. Let's get the right one. Let's get the one that most people can agree on and identify with and get behind and rally and support. To me, that's an effective logo. Is there any more discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll just, I wanted to add something. So I did participate in the survey, so I did take the time to participate in that. And, you know, my thought was, I do want, you know, the city of Selma, there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of things that are happening here in our city. And so I wanted to make sure that I participated in and gave my voice. And so words, you know, about where things grow, that's really good concept. We're down the 99, we're down, you know, we're an artery for up and down the state. And so, you know, I think that that's a really good thing. This for me is a little bit plain. I think I would have liked to seen a little bit more color. I'm trying to look at Chief's logo over there, to see what maybe like we can incorporate that, S, you know, that font. The green represents growth, you know, all of that. I would have liked to have seen some purples in there because of the fact that, you know, they're grapes. Some of the oranges were nice as well because we are Selma High. But I mean, I get what we're saying. I was looking at other logos and it looks like a lot of the cities are actually just using their steel, which is so separate from the logo. But I think that it's a good start. But I think that I would like to see a little bit more colors, a little bit. I know simplicity is better because you don't want too much busyness, like what we did with the BID, that was really busy. And so I think that I'd like to see a little bit more color, maybe a little bit more, maybe incorporating some way the 99, the 43, you know, that connection, you know, with the state. I don't know. I'm not sure. And I know that usually these companies are really good and they give you all of these different designs, but I think that I like to see a little bit different, just a little bit more. I think it's a little bit too plain. I like the City of Selma, California, and then where things grow. I like the tagline, but yeah, I think I need a little bit more.
I think I want to just start by saying that, change is hard, and what we were in the past, we are not now. I mean, talk about it. Let's all talk about the raisins. Where do you see someone actually really still growing raisins, right? They're, so,
Grapes.
but we can talk about the past being the future, but we're not actually dissecting it that way. We're actually, how can we move the city? How can we just, it's a logo, right? Understanding the definition of what we're actually, what's presented in front of us. But I also can concur with some of our council members in regards to the leaves. Can we add some raisins to it? Can we add some colors? The words matter to me. Where good things grow, to me, that tells, it defines something that, so it's how you look at a concept of what you see, what's out there for it, right? And, with old technology, I didn't have computers when I grew up as a kid, right? So, we're moving this fast generational change where people, they take one word and they believe, they have so much belief in a word. So that's what this actually is. It's talking about to our youth about what we want to become and what we are. So when we talk about, oh, well, we're raisins. Yeah, well, that's what you were. But now we have kids right now, 4 or 5 years old, that are on a computer. They already know what the definition of a word is. So I would actually scale back on that part and actually look at how can we mesh things together and work together? Because in reality, this is a beginning. This is a beginning stage where tomorrow morning we can actually add some color, add some words, add some, and come up with something positive for our community. I'm actually happy that we're actually even discussing this because, we could still just be driving around and we're using that same logo for that truck, right? 1930, which everybody says, hey, it's great. Why break it? Why do something different? Because we are different. We want to put our community in a higher pedestal. We want to recognize it. That's my own belief. So for me, I'll, instead of saying something in regards to be, oh, this is just downright bad, I would rather tell you that, what, I'm happy that you're bringing something to the table. It's positive, and I think that we could take the words from it and we could take the colors and we could take people's input and be positive and move it to a positive level in regards to, in another month or two, maybe come back with something that actually we will adhere to and would say that, hey, this is great. So for me, I don't take it as, hey, just shut this down. Let's actually incorporate this and work on it a little longer and come back with something great that we can all approve. Because I'm happy with this, but I do think that we could add some raisins, but colors, words, incorporating all them together, I think would be a good start and ending.
I think I'm pretty close to all the consensus. We just need to find something, when they look at it, they know it's Selma. So we're not quite there yet. So I think go back and just work on it a little bit better. Thank you.
Just a question for council. Is there any, from the revisions that we showed the council, are there any other, I guess, iterations that are more appealing to the council that you may want us to maybe revisit or look at in different color schemes?
Put them back. I think the font in the first two really caught my eye. Yeah, the font in the first two is like showing that history, because I think that's kind of, I think what I've seen, I want to say Selma. I know I've seen that font before around Selma. So it kind of keeps that tradition. And maybe within the line and then where the leaves are at, maybe adding maybe some grapes in there. Like a small bunch of grapes.
It's interesting. There's no mention of 1893. There's no mention of the past. I'd like to see a marriage of the old and the new. The location, like the council members are talking about. is important for Selma because location helps our city. That first font is definitely more classical, and the orange reflects the high school. And let's see, the leaves, I just don't get at all. I just don't think they have anything to do with it. Yeah, put some grapes in there as opposed to, that could be like an oak tree or an acorn or something. I just don't see, I don't see the connection to Selma with the leaves.
So just to reiterate, so the seal is remaining, right? So
Mhm.
the seal has 1893, the seal has raisins, and so what we're wanting to create here is something that would complement the seal, not necessarily replace it, and have all the same elements that the city seal has. You know, when you look at City of Fresno, for example, they have a seal. It's a round seal, just like most other cities, but then the logo that they use across most of their marketing materials is the Fresno with the starburst of the O, right? That has kind of the rising sun. And so they use that on their vehicles. They don't put the seal anywhere except for like their official documents, the resolutions in, you know, the council chambers, et cetera. And so they have something that's more flexible, that's more versatile to use across, you know, the different uses. And so we're not looking to duplicate what, you know, the seal has, which is the incorporated March 1893 raising capital of the world. That's still going to remain. So I would just like to remind council that, you know, we don't have a logo right now. So we're not replacing a logo. We're not replacing the seal either. So this is just something that we can use when we're out marketing and raising the profile of the city. But
And I get
all the
that.
feedback, if I may, Mayor, all the feedback that we've received is absolutely really good feedback. I think that there's no, you know, time crunch necessarily. We wanted to get something adopted, you know, prior to the budget, but that doesn't mean that we can't go back and kind of modify what we have, take the feedback that we received and maybe, you know, take a look at where some grapes might fit in some of these iterations, maybe some different colors. I don't know. I know there's a version of the seal that has been used and floating around that has purple and yellow, and I don't know, maybe the city clerk can let us know what how that process for developing those colors and that seal was conducted. But yeah, I think we can absolutely, yeah, that one that Councilmember Mendoza-Navarro has. And so, and I think there's even a more updated one than that. Mhm. So anyway, yeah, great feedback and we'll come back to council.
Just real quick, City Manager, thank you. The reason the logo has been the seal for all these years, I think, is because it works. So it should be something that's not necessarily the same as the seal, but it should at least play off the seal and reflect it somewhat. That's my input on this, and I like some of what I'm seeing as a first step. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying, you know, this is a first step. This is how you develop. And you know, the leaves, I don't think anybody likes the leaves. I don't think they reflect Selma. I liked what I heard about the motion and the roads, and because that's what people associate with Selma, where we are, right on the 99 and the 43. So that's another good point. The where good things grow, it doesn't get me. Just doesn't mean anything. It doesn't connect me with Selma. It could be any place's logo or words, motto. So I think there's work to be done. I think it's a good first step, though.
And just one thing, I can see the colors differently now than they were up there. So the combination looks nice.
With that, we'll move on to our next item if we're ready.
No, Mayor, the item was asking for some sort of action if the consensus is to table this and with maybe a future item that would bring back some more of the feedback that was expressed tonight, we can absolutely do that. But if there's maybe a consensus or a roll call vote to do that, to table it?
Okay, do we need a roll call vote to table it then? Is there a motion to table this, to develop it more fully?
I'll
Is there a
second it.
second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item 3, consideration of a resolution adopting a downtown storefront improvement grant in the downtown business improvement district.
Okay.
Alrighty, before you have an item, it's a recommendation from the Downtown Business Improvement District. They have been working very, very diligently to develop a downtown storefront improvement grant. Encompassed of the guidelines and application and a scoring rubric. So I'm excited to kind of share what they've got in mind. The initiative is a strategic initiative aimed at breathing new life into the downtown and the storefronts. So the program is very different from your typical facade program because we're mindful that there are design guidelines in the pipeline. So we wanted to still be able to kind of breathe that new life into our downtown, empower the bid to roll out this program. So it's kind of a phase 1. The focus here is on eligible enhancements that meet the community desires, but don't quite fit within the parameters of the forthcoming design restrictions. So with the phased approach, our goal is to empower downtown businesses and enhance the downtown aesthetics. We can go into the next slide. Eligible applicants include business owners within the downtown boundary, and that is because they're the ones kind of paying into the bid. It's who the program is directed towards, both business owners and property owners. The eligible businesses must have a current business license and they must be current on their bid fees. Next slide, please. Moving on to the eligible improvements. So the enhancements, like I mentioned earlier, were carefully selected just to enhance the visual appeal and functionality of the downtown. Just because I always like to kind of talk about how we came about the improvements. The bid took a walk of the downtown. We actually ran into some business owners as we were doing it. We heard from the community as we were doing it. And we looked at what kind of improvements can we help facilitate now. And that's how this list came about. So the first eligible improvement within this program includes removal of unnecessary visual distractions. So that would be the window decals that aren't in compliance with the city's municipal code, making sure that if we're asking a business to be compliant with that within the downtown district, we can provide some funding to help them meet that standard that's already in the municipal code. Removal of non-compliant signage or removal and replacement of damaged, outdated doors and windows. Just improving the condition and appearance of doors and windows not only enhances the building's aesthetics, but it also improves energy efficiency. I know we're in the Central Valley where it gets super, super hot. And security, of course. Code deficiencies, including ADA compliance upgrades for store entrances, and then excluding sidewalks, and then exterior entryway, flooring, or pavement as part of ingress and egress of the building. And then lastly, the installation of permanent lighting attached to business storefronts, right? We want to make sure that our improvements are kind of permanent and they're long lasting, and it's an investment that will have a lasting impact on the downtown. And then if we can move on, to the next slides, just some requirements of the grant funding that we would offer to the downtown. All proposed improvements are required to comply with the city's municipal code, the California Building Code and Fire Code, and any local sign regulations as well as zoning ordinances, and be compliant with the Selma General Plan. So again, we're requiring applicants to have all their building permits before construction begins. Once the permits are secured, construction must commence within the 45 days. This timeline is in place to ensure that timely progress is occurring. And then additional improvements must be completed within 6 months of receiving that permit. But we allow for a 1-month, 6-month extension. Next slide, please. And then the application process. So a business owner in the downtown, if they're going to apply for this funding, they would be required to bring in a PDF copy of their business license, just so that we know that they're up to date and current. 2 contractor quotes, making sure that they're itemized so that we know what those expenses are. Providing a detailed plan illustrating the proposed improvements. And then because they're going to be making permanent improvements to the building, they would be required to either be able to prove that they are the property owner or have buy-off from the property owner. And then if a tenant is applying, they would have to have a signed letter from their property owner. Again, just making sure that everybody's on the same page about the improvements being proposed. And then we ask that they provide a photo of their storefront. Just helps the people scoring their application be able to visualize them. And it also helps us with like marketing purposes of the grant program. Before and afters, those are always fun. Next slide, please. The proposed funding is on a reimbursement basis. So what this means is that if I'm a business and I applied and my application got reviewed, I was notified that congratulations, you are being awarded funding. I would be expected to pay the contractor the $10,000 for my improvements. Then I would go back and I would provide receipts and show proof that the improvements were done, and I would receive a 50% reimbursement of those improvements. It's typical of most grant programs to operate on a reimbursement basis. And that 50% cost share helps businesses offset the expense as a whole, but also it ensures that they have some skin in the game, right? And then next slide, please. The selection criteria. This is how, just for the sake of transparency, and so that as people are applying, they know how their application is going to be scored. It's scored on the 3 criteria: application and eligibility, whether they provided all of the necessary material, whether they're actually eligible within that boundary of the downtown, their project scope, whether it's thorough, whether it'll create an improvement in the downtown, whether it was, it's in the location that will be in the forefront, right, that's visible to the people that are walking. And then the last criteria is the value of the proposed project, whether it's going to increase property values and just bring a positive impact to the downtown. So they can earn anywhere from 5 to 30 points on each of those criteria. In theory, if they were to get a perfect score, it would be a total of 90 points. And then next slide, please. So the proposed timeline. So if approved today, then the grant application window would open April 8th. And then from April to June 21st, all of the applications received would be reviewed at the bids regularly scheduled meeting. And then from there, and they would have a second deadline on July 19th. And then it's again, assuming that funding is still available and it wasn't all awarded in that first round, but it's phased essentially, so that there's one deadline and then there's a second deadline and then the program would continue until all funds are expensed. Right now, the bid allocated in their 6-month budget $28,000 for this program. That's not to say those are the only dollars that are intended for this program, but for the time being, as it's being rolled out, that is the dollars that they've allocated towards it. And if you have any questions, I will stay here.
Thank you. What's the minimum scoring to qualify for the funding?
So the idea is that the top scorers at the end of that first round will be awarded funding.
So it's competitive. It's the scoring is relative.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, Alicia, did I read it correctly? Did you guys exclude painting?
Correct. Yes, for the purpose of just not wanting to conflict with the design guidelines that are forthcoming.
Okay, so do you know when we'll know about the design guidelines? When are they coming out?
So we're anticipating August, right? So then if we roll out this program, then by the time that, or I guess September, I think, then by the time we roll out this program and we wrap up, we can jump right into a second phase of hopefully a full-blown facade program. But it's what I like to call it is a storefront improvement program. It's like a facade program on wheels, I mean, on training wheels, so that we can kind of kickstart those improvements.
What's excluded that will be
Yeah.
included in September?
So because the bid has not discussed those or necessarily aside from, they wanted to see painting in this round too, right? Because as downtown stakeholders themselves, they're aware that there are buildings that could use a touch up on paint. Paint and awnings are two that have been discussed, but because we don't have anything to bring to you to recommend, I can't say for sure that it will be in the next round.
I have a real quick question. So as you're walking through and talking to the owners of these buildings, are they excited or, do you have like a good sense of how many people will be applying or how many owners are going to be applying? Not yet.
That's a good question. I don't have like a head count that I could tell you people are going to apply. I know our board members have been excited and talking about it just to the people that they neighbor, but I don't have an exact head count.
So I applied for signs, door window, and ADA compliance. Is that 3 different grant apps or is that one project?
It's all one.
And you get one, a calendar year, or what's the funding cycle?
So yes, one per budgeting cycle. So right now, the first
So
window.
7/1 to 7/1? Or is that your 12-month window? Thank you, Chief. Can you just stand there and hold? I'm kidding. Got it. Thank you. Are there any comments from the public at this time? Do we have anybody online or on the phone? With that, we'll bring the matter back to council. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item 4, request for council direction on business license fees.
Evening, council. Before you is information that was requested at a prior council meeting. Staff had been looking at the business license fees. And what staff did with regard to our analysis is we took into account some of the comments that had been received at prior council meetings, specifically the one-day business license fees for events, as well as just the general business license application fee. And what we did first was we identified, what are other cities providing in terms of that one-day business license fee? And as you can see in the staff report, we went to the surrounding cities and kind of identified what their one-day business license fees are. And as you can see, if you average them, the per day fee, they range in value, but they come out to about $30. It's $27.89 amongst the cities that we investigated. And that would generally be consistent with what we charge for an out-of-town business license for someone conducting business within the city that maybe already has their office in another jurisdiction. And what we would envision is the processing to be very similar with that type of application. So staff's recommendation would be that a one-day business license for an event also include a $30 fee. That being said, as part of our update and timing, we would encourage that for events specific, that fee currently be waived for the Sikh Parade and the Raisin Festival for this year only. And then we would incorporate it in future years for notification purposes. The second fee that we looked at was the home occupation fee, which is currently $455. If council recalls, we had an awesome workshop on the zoning code update last week. I thought it went very well, where staff is presenting an update to home occupations that includes a minor and a major home occupation, which would resolve some of this fee discrepancy for businesses that don't have customers, that they're really running their books out of their house, or it's an online business like an Etsy store or something like that, that would just be a general business license fee and not the full home occupation fee that would require staff to go out and conduct some inspections or verification of some of the layout within the home. So with the future adoption of the zoning code update, if the minor and major home occupation is included in that update, which it is as proposed, we don't envision that there be a huge issue with home occupations of the minor variety. Lastly, staff went ahead and reviewed the fee that was adopted for current business license applications that was presented in the fee study that was adopted, I believe, in 2021. And we identified some discrepancies in the staffing allocations that were within that fee. And so what we did was we assigned proper staff to that with their current fully burdened rates to come up with a new fee that is about $50 less on the application fee, but it covers 100% of what staff does for those business license applications. So with that, staff is just requesting direction to move forward with the fees as presented or take any comments regarding what's been provided.
Thank you. Council have any questions for Deputy City Manager Keene at this time? Do we have anybody from the public who would like to make a comment about this?
I was going to say something. Carmen Hill, Selma Mobile Estates. So it says here, fee $30 for vendors associated with special event per day. So at the Raisin Festival, I got to pay $30 for every day I'm there.
That would be as proposed, yes.
So it's going to cost me $90 to do the 3 days that I do, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
As proposed, based on the review of other agencies, the average would be $30 per day.
Okay, and 155, that would be for a year?
Yes, for a full business license application that runs more than 1 day per year or in association with a special event, it would be $155.
Okay, so if I do, I know this is mundane, but I gotta say it. So if I do the Raisin Festival and then in October, when we do the band festival, if I wanted to do something then, this license will cover it? The 155?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Come on up.
Good evening again. This is Harvey Singh at 7425 East Danube Avenue in Selma. I'm here to speak on behalf of this Sikh Temple and Sikh Parade. First of all, I'm encouraged that I heard there's a possibility that this might get waived. I hope that is the case. And that would be great because we kind of got wind of this a little bit late in the season and some of the preparation planning had gone on. Having said that, it's not end all. It's not going to kill anybody, including the temple. We will be more than glad to work with the city. If this doesn't get waived, I hope it does, but if it doesn't get waived, we're not here to cause any turbulence or inconvenience anybody. If we have to, we'll figure out what needs to be done and how to get the fees collected, and maybe with the help of the city staff, personnel there Saturday or Sunday when the program, if they want to keep the integrity of the program intact. If not, we will make it a goodwill gesture on our part because you folks have always been very above and beyond and good to us and worked with us on just about every level. We will make it a point to help the city determine what the number of stalls were that needed to be paid for. Okay, so just just coming forward, if it get waived, God bless you. If it doesn't get waived, still God bless you. We'll take care of this one. Okay.
Thank you. And I believe it's a temporary waiver that's being posed tonight for consideration, a 1-year reprieve. Anybody else? Anybody online or on the phone? Great. With that, we'll bring the matter back to council.
I'll make a motion
Is there
to
a
waive
second?
it.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Waive it this year.
Okay, so that'll be part of the motion. We're still looking
Okay.
for direction on the proposed fees identified within the report to bring them back to
Okay.
council for
Or-
Deputy City
consideration.
Manager, could you kind of explain what the next step in the process
Sure.
would be?
Thank you, City Manager. The next step
Okay.
in the process would be bring a formal resolution changing the fees. This information was strictly informational to
Okay.
allow council to have input into how the fees are structured in terms of 1 day, a full event fee, what have you. This is what staff found as the comparable through the cities in the region. And this is what we're recommending. So if the council would like to move forward with these fees, it would be a recommendation to bring these fees back for formal adoption, as well as if council wishes to consider a waiver for the 1 year as recommended as well.
Okay, so we're gonna bring the $30 per day, correct? Or is it the $27.89?
$30.
$30, okay. And then the 155 is a flat for the 1 year, correct? Okay,
What about the
Yeah.
home occupancy? Are you looking
Yeah.
for guidance on that?
The home occupation would be resolved as part of the zoning code update, where the $155 fee would be charged as part of minor home occupations. And then for the major home occupations, which as we discussed on last Tuesday, would include items where people have customers come to their house where they require more work on staff to inspect the facility and or the home and things like that. So the $455 would be applied to what we would term major home occupations.
mhm.
Minor home occupations would be charged the standard business license fee.
Okay.
Mr.
Up to
Singh brought up a
150.
good point. He said, that this kind of got sprung on them and they didn't have enough time. What are the timelines for the $30 fee? How long? I'd say I want to have an event. Can I do it the day before? Get a temporary business license?
I believe at the time that they are out there, the 1 day business license would just need to be applied and issued. So in theory, staff would prefer more time to process so that there's no hangup. So I would say the week of the event is definitely feasible.
Conceivably, the special event itself would have applied for a permit 45 days if there's not much staff involvement, and 90 if there is. So the city would have had an opportunity to review the folks who are going to be there selling their items, right?
And I don't want to steal the community services director's thunder or anything, but you know, having a list of vendors, I believe, is part of the application. As part of the legacy events, the coordination meetings ask for that type of information to ensure that there's proper permitting and coordination with Fresno County. So the vendors should be known early on as part of the process to ensure that they have proper permitting through Fresno County, and then also that they have proper licensing through the city. So as it pertains to notification, we should know well in advance of the week of the event of who needs what.
Because that's already a question. It's already part of the permit process.
Oh, just
Got it.
one more question, because this was brought to my attention. What if there's an emergency, like somebody wanted to do a fundraiser for the 2 children that had burned in the fire, and they had brought it to the city, and the city told them no, that they couldn't do the fundraiser there at Lincoln Park? What about things like that, that sometimes it's an emergency, it's a necessity? Would we make exceptions for something like that?
Yeah, I can actually take that one. So yes, we would. Obviously, emergencies happen, fundraisers need to be done, et cetera, and we would absolutely work towards that if we could. In recent times, within the last couple of weeks, there was a situation, but unfortunately with that one, because it was last minute and they were looking to do it on property that didn't belong to them, it's a little different process, right? If it's at a city park, we oversee it, we manage it. Of course, we can do what we have to do. And my staff did work really hard to try to make that event happen. So we're not, obviously, if there's an emergency, that is something that, again, I talk about my coolness factor a lot. That is something that we bring to deputy city manager or city manager. But what we're talking about within these and these cases, working with the SEEK organizers, organizers or parade organizers. We just want to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to get that one-day license, to get us that information. That way we can follow the rules that we kind of have set.
Okay.
But absolutely, there has been cases where there's emergencies or things like that. Those are a case-by-case basis, and they bring them to us, and then we would route them up the chain.
Got it.
So does that have to be in writing? I mean, do we need to put something like that in writing?
As far as that we will allow for emergencies
Right.
or,
Like something just in
I will-
case?
Yeah, well, if I may, I think the issue, so we received a request for a fundraiser for the family that suffered a loss a couple of weeks ago in the fire. And I think the request for was to waive the fees associated with the special event. And in that case, the council had made it clear that only nonprofits would receive waivers for special events. And I think that was what the issue was. And, but if, from your perspective, if you're looking for waivers of business licenses to, for vendors and things like that, I mean, that's, we can define what emergency situations is, and that can absolutely be a policy that the council institutes. But that was the issue with that particular
Okay.
event.
So maybe we could revisit that policy and include maybe a special wording in there just so that it doesn't get lost in translation for the future.
Yeah, I mean, because if they're looking, if we get a application on, Wednesday and they want to have the event on Saturday,
Right.
it really ties our hands as to what we can bring to council for,
Okay.
because it really doesn't even have to be in the policy. We can bring it to council and you can say, we're going to make an exception to our policy this one time. But in that case, we didn't even have the time to bring it to council.
Right. We have a first and second. Is that we ready for the roll call? Okay, call the roll, please.
So we amended that first and that second to also include the recommendation of bringing the business license fees back at a future time. Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, next two items are gonna maybe take a little bit. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and we'll come back at 7:30. tonight is Selma Housing Priorities.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Pursuant to a request by Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, we've placed this item on the agenda for council's discussion with particularly with regard to Councilmember Mendoza Navarro's upcoming trip to Washington DC to meet with federal lawmakers around the topic of housing issues, not just in Selma, but it sounds like across the entire Central Valley. So these are the items that we've identified as issues that affect Selma with regard to housing. And we wanted to present it to council to see if there's anything that as a body you'd like to add to the list that Councilmember Mendoza Navarro can take to Washington DC.
Okay. Any comment from council? Do we have any items from the public they would like to add? We have anybody online or on the phone? With that, we'll bring the matter back to council. Is there anything to add? This is a discussion and direction, so this is not a vote. So we don't have anything to add at this point. We will move on to item 6, which is a quarterly development update presentation.
Oh, real quick, I just want to know, is everyone okay with what staff presented? Because like City Manager Santian mentioned, right now, they're still finalizing some of the meetings that I'm having, but we are going to be meeting with Congressman McClintock, Congressman Duran, and also Congressman Costa, and believe also Mr. Congressman Valadeo, because he is part of the Housing Committee. And so is there anything, because I mean, this list was good, so I
think if you could, and I think in the steps of self-help, okay, in regards to, I think ownership of a house and that, where does the funding come from? Where does it work? And what numbers do we need and that area in speaking on the self-help, also the apartments that they're doing, I think they moved into that area already. They started building apartments, stuff like that. I guess where the federal plays fact, I know the self-help, Visalia has been doing a really good job in Wheatley, and they're actually moving their self-help into some real nice key areas, and they're actually integrating them. So if we could find what the mechanism all the other cities have been doing, of course, of course, it goes back to our general planning, what we're actually talking to when they come. But I think a good understanding of where the funding's coming and what we could do as a city that's needing housing, how we can entertain that with our residents.
Yeah, the last time self-help
Thank you.
housing came to Selma, they wanted to propose a project on Dinuba, and the council voted it down unanimously just because it would have created a huge traffic impact. But they never came back. I thought they would come back with another project.
That in itself underscores our actual staff when they brought that project to us. And I work really close. In the 24 years I worked for a construction company, I worked hand in hand with self-help. My office is Visalia. They're dying to come back to Selma. So I think that if we get our staff where we could understand and find a specific area and target an area and actually have our staff work with the residents prior and marketing it to the way Wheatley did or any other city, I think we could do a really hand-in-hand project there. But I think right now what we're dealing with is where the funding's coming, what the cities are doing to work with the federal government and our people that, that are out there representing us. I think that would be one of the key is in right now, and then we can come back and see how we could actually navigate that. Because I believe that bringing residents to actually work on a home they built themselves, they bring so much pride to them, and then they start upgrading these homes. So it's just a one-step shot so they can move up to a different home. So I think that would be really good for you to go and try to find out how the mechanism of financing and what they do.
Do we have a monthly payment we make to Chriscom for lobbying? Do they also lobby the federal folks? do they have any input for the council
Yes.
member?
CRISCOM does lobby our federal representatives, and they, I mean, most of their efforts are focused towards the infrastructure, which we've mentioned here as a roadblock to housing development. But yeah, that's really where their efforts are targeted to lobbying for money for infrastructure to support housing.
Okay. So they have related lobbying efforts then? They have related lobbying efforts
Correct.
for infrastructure,
Yes.
which assists in building housing.
Facilitates housing, correct.
Have they been contacted on this?
Not on this particular item, no.
And council member, are you going on behalf of the Madera Housing Authority
Yes.
or
I'm going as, you know, part of my work, but
part of your
what-
job?
part of my job, but what it is that I'm gonna be talking to, you know, federal officials and so, or their staff. And a lot of if, I'm not just going by myself, I'm going with, other housing authorities. And so we're partnering in meeting with all of these different congressmen. So we have City of, Fresno Housing Authorities going, it's a NARO conference, so it's a lot of the housers. I'm going with Stanislaus County Housing Authority, like I said, Fresno Housing Authority, it's housing authorities across the nation. And so we have meetings scheduled with California, specific state of California representatives.
Got it. Okay. With that, we will move on to item 6, quarterly development update presentation.
And council, so everybody received the development presentation that was sent out last week. We kind of divided it up to highlight new projects, current projects, and idle projects, so everybody got an idea of what's recently been submitted to the city, what the status is of projects that have been going on with the city, and then kind of projects that staff is still reaching out to the applicants, or there's been no real change on those projects. So with that, I'll start with the first slide. Under new projects, this is a mixed-use project located at the intersection of Whitson and Thompson that includes about 12,000 square feet of commercial, varying commercial, retail, could be office space, as well as a mini mart on the corner. I've spoken with the applicant about that project. It could also be a car wash on that corner instead of a mini mart, just for cost savings to them. But they're looking at what the better use on that corner would actually be. It would also include 64 units of multifamily in the rear along Front Street. And that project, if council recalls, we also applied for a grant for some infrastructure along in the region of this project to help try and facilitate the construction of the project. Because we feel that this type of project is a good infill project on an empty lot in the middle of town. It would bring some life to that corner over there. It would also include, as part of that grant, relocating the bus stop that would be constructed as part of this project along the frontage of Whitson as well.
I'm sorry, Whitson and what?
Whitson and Thompson.
We're La Estrella, catty corner from La Estrella restaurant.
Oh,
Whitson
okay.
and Stillman.
Okay.
Yeah, where the tire shop on
Yeah,
the corner is.
okay.
They would actually propose abandoning Stillman Street to make a cohesive lot for development in that location. Stillman runs through the lot and it's kind of right there at the intersection, creates some traffic conflicts over there. So the proposal would be to abandon Stillman Street to again make a cohesive lot that's developable by the applicant.
Just a side note, Mayor, the grant that Deputy City Manager is referring to is the transit-oriented development grant through the Fresno COG. I'm not sure, I think you're ultimately tasked with approving the projects that get presented to the board. So just a heads up, you might be seeing that.
TOD is like free money. It's great. It's gonna be really good.
Yep.
Can't wait to see that one.
Staff put in 2 grants for TOD this year, so.
That's to move that bus stop, right? Good stuff.
Okay, so next slide. Oh, any other questions? Okay, next slide. So speaking of Dinuba and McCall, this would be the northeast corner of Dinuba and McCall, where we have a proposal for a gas station, food, as well as drive-through out at that location. Again, this is dependent on sewer out at that location. The applicants have been made aware of that fact, but they've submitted a preliminary application for this that we're still working through completion of that application. If I could go back to the last application very quickly, that application was complete when it was submitted, and that was submitted in February, and we're reviewing the decision letter to get back to them, and it should be issued this week.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Dinuba and McCaw, the light?
So we ran into, I think we talked about environmental out there, and we tried to get Caltrans to waive some of the cultural resource requirements because much of the area that's being acquired for right-of-way at that location is frontage of driveways on the south side of Dinuba, as well as adjacent to the agricultural activities that are going on the northwest corner.
Will this hinder that? Or will that project?
The right-of-way's already been granted as part of this site, so that right-of-way does not need to be acquired. It's all the additional right-of-way that they're requiring further study on, that staff is working to try and get through that process, either through negotiations with Caltrans and their environmental people, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to staff, or if we can get some of the right-of-way dedicated as part of projects so that there's less right-of-way to acquire, it would then fall under their screening criteria, which is again part of the reason we're negotiating with them, because we're trying to get Caltrans to understand that this right-of-way is coming to the city. Why does it need to be studied for cultural resource value? So
It's a funded project, the stoplight.
Right.
$1 million. It's there. They just need to put it
need to
up.
move it through, and we're working with Caltrans. We've had long conversations about the unneeded hangups from the environmental standpoint.
I'll bring it up at COG again for what it's worth. All right.
So real quick question, really going back to the very first one. So I apologize because you went back too, so I can go back too. So when I want to make my case here, this project is ready almost to just already hand over and start, right? When did this project start and how long
When was
did
it submitted and when are we issuing a letter? It was submitted, I think at the beginning of February. And then we're issuing, because it was a complete application, the architect had made some calls to us beforehand. And we're issuing, and then it was through the preliminary review process. So we're issuing that decision of what their next permitting process would be.
Okay.
So in some cases, they can apply for some building permits. In others, they may need a CUP if they actually do a gas station. But it's around 60 days for a review to get clear comments from departments, have discussions with applicants about why those requirements are being included, and then have some, as we talked about earlier, some give and take, and maybe find some middle ground so that the city is still obtaining what we need in terms of improvement, and that they can detail, how they're planning on meeting our requirements. Any other questions on the Dinuba McCall gas station? Okay. So this one, and I'd also like to point to the fact that sometimes to try and get a detailed site plan, we have to turn one sideways and we try to indicate which way north is so you guys can match it up accordingly, right? So on the left, the map was turned, counterclockwise, 90 degrees, so that we could fit as much detail on there as possible. But as you can clearly see, it is a rectangle that's long ways horizontal, right? So this project is track 6464. It includes 40 duplex lots, as well as 90 units that are townhome and duplexes. It is a multi-phase project, so some of these lots will be for private sale, and then one will be retained by the owner for rentals. So it's more or less I think it's like a 4-phase project that they're gonna build where the north end is close homes that share a wall on a lot. And the southern part will actually be gated for the duplexes on the part that'll be rented.
So you're saying there's gonna be about 40 duplexes and 90 townhouse?
40 duplex lots for a total of 80 units, and then another 90 units on the south end. So 170 total units. And again, this project is subject to approval of sewer in that area as well.
This is in a sphere of influence, or is it in our city?
It would require annexation for this project. Staff has worked with the applicant and LAFCO as well, and there will be multiple parcels that are included in the overall annexation so that we create a logical boundary at this location. As you'll see, there's another project located on Dinuba that is included in the same annexation.
Good.
Any other questions regarding that project? Okay, so this would be the second Front Street mixed-use project. This is proposed to be a coffee shop with some office on the ground floor and in the basement, as well as 3 apartment units on the second floor. This project would also have some outdoor seating located along Front Street that would require some reconfiguration of Front Street. This project was submitted January 29th, and we will be issuing that final decision later sometime this week as well.
Okay.
Questions?
Could you elaborate on which building that is?
I think it's the trophy shop as it is currently known.
Thank you.
Will always be known as that in Selma, the old trophy shop.
Questions? Okay. Recently, staff just received this Dinuba and multifamily proposal, which is located directly adjacent to the east of the gas station that was just discussed. This would include a 72-unit multifamily apartment complex and 43 single-family lot subdivision to the north. To beat a dead horse, this project will also require sewer to be served, and the applicant is aware of that. Questions?
That's just dollar signs for the back to the city.
Huh?
On this one, is that the one that you're gonna need the second truck line, or? isn't that-
I believe this is the second phase of the
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, after Amberwood, this would be served by the Dinuba trunk line. That's the second project.
Staff is still reviewing this application for completion. It was received about a week and a half. Okay, so moving on to current projects. Have the Amberwood tract, which is part of the Amberwood specific plan, which is part of the Amberwood sewer line project. This project, as proposed in the tentative map, was 270 single-family lots. The most recent update is we've been in contact with the prospective home developer who actually emailed me today to ask if we had issued the notice to proceed on the Amber sewer line. Obviously, we hadn't awarded it yet, so we couldn't issue a notice to proceed, so he will get an email tomorrow morning. But staff had anticipated possibly receiving the final map and first draft of improvement plans this week from that developer following the issuance of the award for the Amberwood sewer line. There have been discussions about them actually increasing the lot count from 270 up to about 297 using a provision of the specific plan that allows 10% deviation from what was approved. And that would include some lot changes and things like that that would still come before city council before that map could be recorded.
Have the conditions of construction been even proposed on that? Like, are they going to be smart homes, you know, with the yard, the water conservation requirements?
So all plans that go through are still required to meet the model water efficiency landscape ordinance requirements of the state of California. So you would have to comply with those on your model site plan or building plans that you provide for your standard homes. So apart from that, you still have to comply with Title 24 and your energy, efficiency provisions as part of the construction of the home.
City could go beyond that though, right? City
Correct.
could, require solar, they could.
I believe
require-
solar is required, solar ready is
Solar
required as part of the current construction of all new single-family homes. The thing I would say about including solar as part of a mandatory requirement is it increases the cost of the home, which could price out people from an affordability standpoint.
Sprinklers required.
If there's landscaping, their landscaping and irrigation plans, again, are reviewed in accordance with the model water efficiency landscape requirements of the state to ensure that they're not overwatering, that they're not using sprayers that spray concrete or the sidewalk instead of the actual landscaping. But then they also have a planning schedule that matches what the current environment is, so that they're not planting high water usage plants in an arid environment.
Or insurance people. She meant life safety sprinklers.
Fire sprinklers are included as
Yeah.
part of new single-family homes as a requirement.
Required.
Cover all sprinkler discussions tonight. Questions? Please.
Wait till the end.
So Selma Grove, city staff attended the LAFCO hearing for the consideration of the annexation. That was approved unanimously by the LAFCO Commission. So now we're just waiting for the applicant to fulfill their conditions of LAFCO, which would include paying State Board of Equalization fees, providing legal descriptions, and any other documentation that would allow the certificate of compliance to be recorded, both with the county recorder as well as the State Board of Equalization. For all applicant mandated requirements. Questions? Okay, next slide. So the Raven Tract. So we've had numerous meetings with the applicant regarding their proposal on this subdivision. If council recalls, I think there was a discussion about historical recharge rights of CID on the northeast corner of this property. We advised the applicant to discuss that matter with their in-house counsel as well as negotiate with CID. What came about out of those discussions is they are splitting this project into two, with the western portion becoming its own map while they transfer property in accordance with those historical rights on the eastern half. So they are currently preparing a revised tentative map for that western portion to be submitted to staff for processing, and then they would subsequently submit a second tentative tract map for the eastern portion. And this project would require sewer as well. Questions? Next slide. So the Casitas Development Project, we've moved past the application being deemed complete, and we've been working with the applicant to complete their environmental documentation on this project. We are currently preparing an initial study that should be out for release within the next month to at least kick off the comment review period for the environmental impact report that will be prepared for this project. We've had numerous discussions with the applicant regarding infrastructure and other items as part of this project. In addition, we've spent a lot of time talking to Caltrans about the traffic study and the impacts to Floral as well as the off-ramps with regard to queuing at the intersection in front of Walmart, any turn pockets that would be permitted. Staff, like I said, is preparing the environmental documentation to go out for comment for this project.
Deputy City Manager, just wanted to point out, so this project as well as the Selma Grove project are both contributing to the, I guess, traffic mitigation projects that are going to impact Floral. So, we're working with Caltrans, and maybe Deputy City Manager can go deeper into this. We're working with Caltrans right now to figure out sort of the best immediate fix to the intersection at Highland and Floral, with also keeping an eye on the longer term improvements, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
Thank you, City Manager, for pointing that out. Staff has used development impact fees for mitigating impacts at this intersection to help with, as the City Manager said, some intermediate improvements such as increasing the existing queuing on eastbound traffic, the left turn lane if you travel eastbound on Floral to Highland, increasing the queuing because there's only about a queue for about 3.5 cars. A car would stick out into
It
the
blocks the
through
traffic.
lane,
It's crazy.
through lane. And so what staff has done is it's about 2.5 times the queuing that we're proposing with Caltrans to allow for more through traffic as well as people to clear out of the way to kind of increase traffic flow. Again, that's just an intermediate improvement. What we've also proposed with Caltrans is working on a feasibility study to analyze the off-ramps at Floral, southbound Floral off-ramp, as well as the Highland intersection where you have the northbound off-ramp, as well as the not really a roundabout off-ramp, but the off-ramp there, to try and figure out if there's a different configuration that would be more beneficial to traffic in that area. So we've provided a scope of work to Caltrans that they are currently reviewing to begin that process of what would improvements to those intersections look like to enhance traffic. As part of this project specifically, we've already identified that the project itself would have one north-south road through the middle, but there is a proposed road on the western portion of the project that has been on the books in the Northwest Selma specific plan since the 90s. It's called Fancher Street, which would be an 80-foot wide north-south road that would connect to Stillman. So it would allow more traffic that maybe from Selma Grove, they could go down Fancher to Stillman and then go north on Highland and totally avoid the Floral Highland interchange or intersection if they wanted to. So we have a lot of variations of intersection improvements that we're considering and looking at, but we are exploring all options.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, but if you, has the city received any funding in regards to helping on that congested area?
Impact fees paid for by all projects in that area. I mean, if this project goes in, when Selma Grove goes in, they would all pay impact fees to help incrementally in addition to their specific frontage improvements and enhancements that they would make the Floral Avenue. So impact fees are meant to be used in a fashion to help alleviate collective impacts apart from just specific project related improvements.
And these projects are actually affecting, or they were affected by which sewer line were you fixing?
Rose Avenue.
Rose Avenue?
Yeah, so this project, along with Selma Grove and along with a lot of development up in the Northwest, has sewer constraints with the undersizing of the existing sewer line within Rose Avenue that I believe is a 10-inch that would be upgraded to a 15-inch. And then the upgrade of the Rose Avenue lift station as well. I don't know if the city manager is going to jump in and state that the city has applied for an EDA grant to fund those improvements. And so we are, again, exploring all options to enhance infrastructure in those areas.
Yeah, and I would add that all of that sewage from that development ends up at Clarkson. So Clarkson is ultimately where it ends up in addition to the Rose Avenue lift station.
And
Would they need a separate lift station at the Grove?
Selma Grove,
Selma Grove
I don't
development?
believe that they need their own lift station. I believe they need the Rose Avenue lift station upgraded.
So they could use that one.
Correct. And as part of the grant application, the leveraging of impact fees was used as kind of a match by the city in anticipated revenue of incremental impacts from projects to help with showing the feds that we still collect fees to fund infrastructure, but the need is heavy in this area for an economic development type area.
And if you need a circuit planner, COG approved funding Thursday for circuit planning for like up to 100,000 a year. They're looking for cities to use their resource.
Who's the planner, the planning firm?
They didn't mention the actual name. They just approved the funding
I
for it.
believe it's Rincon.
Rincon? Okay, thank you.
It is Rincon.
So this project is the Highland Park development. We brought, I believe this was a newer project we brought last time that is a shift to more higher density. They would be proposing to go to R4 as part of this project, along with some commercial along Highland. Staff met with the project applicant team with Caltrans to discuss driveway access along Highway 43 and the kind of the spacing for this project and whether a median would be required at this location. That conversation went really well with Caltrans. They have clear direction on how to proceed with not only their traffic study, but design and locations of their driveways. Questions? So next project, the Joseon Development Project, we again met with the project's planning team with Caltrans, and we had a similar discussion that we did with the prior Highland Park project regarding driveway access. I actually spoke with the planner for the project last week regarding if they had any additional questions about the driveway locations or what came out of that project or out of that meeting. And they still requested, some of the driveway locations that exist to remain. And so that's a discussion to be had with Caltrans as much as the city in compliance with our circulation element policies along arterial roadways and spacing requirements. So I believe we can work with them on maybe one driveway location that exists in relation to the spacing, but along Highland Avenue with the speeds people drive, having one, common location would be preferred, right? To ensure everybody is getting in and out in a safe manner. You don't have people speeding up while people are slowing down to get in another driveway. Questions? So Highland, Nebraska apartment project. This is a 144 unit apartment complex with some commercial located along Nebraska. Staff is planning on taking this item to the regular planning commission meeting in April. We've worked with the applicant team to review the draft conditions of approval for the project. And as I've stated, we try to work with them as much as we can, understanding what our limitations are. But the applicant team has been very amenable to many of the conditions of approval for that project. It's been a long road for that project as well. So we're looking forward to bringing that to the April Planning Commission meeting. Any questions?
The applicant, if I may share, is Jay Singh is the project owner. Their question was whether this is Mr. Nick Sahoda's project.
Oh, no, I believe we're coming up. I think that's in the presentation. Okay, McCall Apartment Project. This is a project that I believe was approved originally by Planning Commission, I believe in 2019, and then it was granted extensions through COVID. Planning Commission issued an extension, and staff is working through a second round of plan check comments with the project applicant on this project.
Who's the project owner, Deputy City Manager?
It used to be Mr. Nelson, but I believe he sold it to someone. The Casa de Villa Apartments. This is a 40-unit apartment complex with a future phase for commercial. This is the aforementioned project of Mr. Nick Sahoda. This project recently went to the Planning Commission meeting last Monday and was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission to come before the City Council at a future regular meeting. We're bringing that project forward as well for your consideration. Questions? Okay. The Thompson Estates tract. This project, the applicant has decided to include an additional phase to this single-family residential subdivision project. This is the site directly adjacent to the north and west of the proposed Thompson Park that is currently in the design phase with staff. The applicant is currently working with their consultants on environmental documentation to put this project out for review and comment. I believe they have some issues, not necessarily issues, but some information that needs to be included in their traffic study that they're still working with staff on the scoping of those items. This would also include the annexation of property to the north of it as well, to not create an island. So there are some rural residential properties to the north that will be included as part of the annexation. Questions? Rose Avenue tract, this would be directly adjacent to the Country Rose Estates subdivision. This was a 42 lot subdivision that was the application had been submitted and was finally deemed complete, I believe, in January. We are preparing the environmental documentation for this, as well as the draft conditions of approval to review with the applicant, likely either later this week or early next week, but we plan on taking this to a special planning commission meeting at the end of April.
Would that require annexation?
This property is located within the city limits. This project would also include continuation of a proposed linear park in the Amberwood specific plan where the PG&E lines are. So it's a good use of otherwise unusable land as part of the project. JNC truck parking. This project was reviewed. They had a grading permit previously in process that required some additional indemnification agreements due to their location being prone to flooding. So there were some easements recorded on there and some acknowledgements of that that needed to be recorded before issuance of the grading permit. But those have been recorded and we should be issuing that grading permit relatively soon. Bubble wash renovation, second plan check comments have been sent to the applicant and we're awaiting a third submittal on that building permit. Questions? Outsource industrial project. This has been not necessarily a long-standing issue or project going on with the city. There was a deferred improvement agreement as part of this project, but a building permit was issued January 3rd, 2024, that allowed construction to commence on their building. They've had to shuffle some things around to make room. We've had meetings with the property owner who is leasing it to outsource to, ensure that they're following proper compliance and grading permits and ensuring that they are obtaining proper encroachment permits as well as permits through SKF for their sewer system discharge. Building permit has been submitted and we anticipate them moving forward on that as well. SCRTA, we received some building permits for some various items such as solar panels and some ancillary things, but the project is still under construction. If you drive out there, you can see a lot of activity going on. The Starbucks drive-through and walk-up at-risk grading activities have been allowed along 2nd Street. So if you drove by it last week, you saw them pouring concrete along their frontage, but they still have some outstanding comments to finish as part of their grading permit and building permit applications before they formally begin grading the site and beginning construction of that project. Crestwood Wellness Facility. This was a project that had previously been approved as a different type of facility. This project went through considerable review by staff and worked with the Crestwood management team where public safety officials, both of your chiefs, were kind enough to give us some of their very valuable time to tour their Kingsburg facility and how they operate. This project went to Planning Commission and was subsequently approved on January 22nd. And then they've submitted their building permit for renovation, which is about a $20 million renovation of that facility out on Dinuba. And the first plan check comments for that building permit were sent to the applicant on March 13th. Questions? Camacho Tire. Staff is awaiting revisions on the grading permit after meeting with the applicant's engineer on that project. And there were significant clarifications provided, but the applicant's engineer was receptive to those comments and understood why they were needed on their application.
Yeah, Jerome?
Yeah.
I know that this was, I received an email from the owner, and he said there was, a requirement in regards to how many parking stalls that they had to have.
Mhm.
Did that get resolved?
I believe the parking requirement was identified in the site plan review, and it's based off of what our current parking calculation is in the municipal code. I do believe it's been resolved, at least from my understanding, but I can follow up on that matter, because as we've gone through their various iterations of the site plan,
Mhm.
there haven't been any issues with where the parking's located. I think there might be an issue with the trash enclosure location as part of that project in terms of how they facilitate trash pickup with the waste hauler and providing access to where they provided the location, because they have a gate on one side and driving through the site. As we know, most of the solid waste trucks don't like to back up. So pulling it out, loading it up, and then driving through the site, they may have to make accommodations to make sure that they facilitate that with whoever the waste hauler is on the site.
How does he apply, in his case, and I get this a lot, people say that the rules are not really applicable to what they're doing, like a tire store. People don't come in and hang out there or wait or sit there, it's not a Schwab model, it's a kind of a leave your car and go away model. There's not a lot of sitting areas, so the parking area, I think they required 13 spaces, he only needed maybe 10 or less than that. Would he have to apply for a variance? Is that the way to get around
I
that, or
believe the
to?
current municipal code has an allowance for parking discrepancies or interpretations to be presented to the planning commission for a determination. In the case of this specific use, I believe it's a defined use in the municipal code. So a variance would be if there were some sort of hardship for them not to meet the parking requirements, such as an odd shaped lot, there's some sort of circumstance that dictates the reduction of parking for usability of the site so that it's not considered a taking or something along those lines, that they maintain some use of the property that similar properties within the zone district are given. So in terms of design, the applicant can design around the parking given, what his proposed use is, because he hasn't built anything. If it was like an existing use and there were existing structures on site, maybe a variance could be warranted, but in most cases, you can design around most of the unique circumstances needed for a variance if it's an empty site.
Just remind me, how much does it cost to go to planning commission?
In that case, I don't believe there's a fee for a parking determination. So he
There's no
applies
fee
for a
for
site.
that.
Yeah, he applies for a site plan review and he can ask for a parking determination as part of that, and staff would present it.
But let's take it a step further. Let's go to the very 2 meetings ago, we talked about, it's almost behoove you to, before you purchase that land, actually hire someone to look at the project that you want to build and look at the scope, and that individual is gonna go look at the land and say, hey, this land here probably is gonna give you some problems because it's got X, Y, and Z, right? So when we talk about developers of, where their niche at, and we receive emails saying, you guys are the worst in the city, we never had these problems, but in reality, as a developer and as a person that wants to build something, it's actually in their best interest to actually hire someone to say, hey, I want to build a house, or I want to build apartments. This is what I want. Is this property gonna suit that? And when he meets with you, that pre-meeting we were talking about 2 meetings ago, this saves a lot of this headache here.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about, this, here we go again, the city's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but in reality, if you do your due diligence as an owner like myself, and I'm building or I own property, and we do our due diligence, we're actually saving time, we're actually saving money. So a lot of these projects, it's kind of like in the weeds right now. You see these projects, you see one that has, someone that's, doing their due diligence, they're just fast tracking it. Then you find some projects that have the bump in the roads, and in reality, you're teaching them through the process, right? And you're giving them, hey, look, that's not what we're supposed to do, but you did this. And just case in point, they haven't built it. They can actually go back and redefine it and save some money. if they find that planner to do it and express their feelings of what that property entails, right?
Right, and in most instances, when we issue a pre-development letter or a site plan review letter, especially with the site plan review letter, I believe that there's an appeal process for that, for a hearing before the planning commission, and then subsequently, if it's appealed again to the city council, right? And in a lot of instances, people don't exhaust those type of remedies that are there before them. Not that we want to bring everything beyond who the approval authority is. We want to have discussions with them so that they understand. But a lot of the development requirements are available for the public to do, as the council member said, their due diligence beforehand, to understand what requirements they're allowed to work within, so that they're not then, preparing their plans, submitting construction documents, and then asking for a variance on the back end, right? That's just not the way to do it. Any other questions? Family Healthcare Network, I think everybody sees that project moving right along. There was some coordination with that project as part of the Golden State Project, and making sure that they weren't duplicating efforts for things that were going to be done, or at least they were coordinating with the plans that were already prepared along the frontage. But construction is ongoing. We've had discussions with them about the demolition of the existing structure, because it's in their future parking lot. And so there'll be, a transition to the new building where a temporary certificate of occupancy has already been negotiated, so that they can remain open and keep providing services to the community at large while they transition and demo that existing building. So we've worked with them at length to ensure that there's no stop in service to residents.
I got an FYI for you. And that one corner where that building went in used to be, the Cho's was there.
Oh, okay.
1963.
Wow. Other questions?
You weren't born yet.
Selma Unified School District, this is a site plan review for I think it's like a warehouse or maintenance building, as well as storage of various portable structures that are utilized throughout the Selma Unified School District facilities and campuses. We recently just received an update to that project's site layout, and so staff is currently reviewing that and will be processing that accordingly. Questions? Fine. Selma Warehouse Lot 5, the site plan was approved January 2024, and we are waiting on construction documents which appear to be imminent based on discussions of the property owner who is providing the site. It's like a design build for the future tenant or the future owner of that site, who will be locating there. It'll bring a new business from another community to the city of Selma, which is that's always pretty cool. Okay, so that ends my current project presentation. Going to idle projects that have kind of, we reach out to find out if there's any updates, if there's any, plan submittals imminent, and we either get no response or limited reaction when we inquire about this, and this could be for a variety of reasons, right? So we'll start with the Raj Apartments, located on the southwest corner of Nebraska, and that's not Thompson, that is it's not on my map. What's wrong with me? Mitchell, thank you. Horrible map. All right.
This says Nebraska and Mitchell. Did you say Thompson and Mitchell?
I said it wasn't Thompson. I said Nebraska, and it's
Oh.
not Thompson, but she
Thank you.
let me know it was Mitchell. I believe this project may have some Rule 20 issues along the frontage that may be cost prohibitive for what they're proposing to do, but we understand that that is an item that is typically required for development and in compliance with our municipal code and standards.
Deputy CM, could you elaborate on what Rule 20 is? for the
Rule
council?
20 is the undergrounding of overhead utility lines through PG&E, Comcast, AT&T.
So in other words, new projects would have to underground the power lines rather than build overhead lines again.
Okay, next project, 1630 Second Street. This was a proposed gas station and convenience store. The applicant had submitted, I think, some zoning text amendment to signage, but subsequently withdrew their application. This was also the site for where the highway sign was abated by staff earlier this year. So there has been no subsequent follow-up on this project from the applicant. McCall Estates, staff had met with the applicant and Fresno County LAFCO to discuss the process for annexation in a sphere of influence amendment, which, LAFCO and the city were on the same page. This is a property owner initiated project. There is some outreach associated with annexations that involve or in proximity to disadvantaged communities or neighborhoods. In addition, there are various other items to consider as it relates to this project. So the applicant has been notified of what the LAFCO requirements are and the outreach that they need to do in pursuant to the LAFCO rules and procedures. And since that meeting in November, we haven't had any follow-up on that item. And then the last project we have is a proposed Candlewood Suite project directly adjacent to the Cetus projects on Floral. We reached out to the project applicant team after we issued an incompleteness letter to their application back in November, and we have not had any follow-up. They were notified as part of that incomplete letter about the location of that Fancher Street alignment, that 80-foot right-of-way that they did not show on their site plan. In addition, I had assumed that they also heard that the Casitas project also is including a hotel. So I don't know if they're revising their project submittal, if they're trying to combine their efforts with the adjacent property owner, but we have not received any follow-up from the project applicant team despite
How
outreach.
big's the hotel?
I believe it was like 107 rooms.
That's Casitas south of Walmart.
Well, for which project? This specific project proposed 107, and I believe Casitas was 100 plus rooms as well.
Oh, got it.
That concludes my development project update. I am available for any questions.
I have a question. Thanks, Jerome.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for this. You mentioned about the developer. Are you able to state who that is now?
Not until I have a formal application, because it's not public record.
Okay. That was my question.
Deputy City Manager, any updates on the old Save Mart building?
They are still working through their ADA compliance in their parking lot. And they have issued building permits, but I believe that was the issue that they had, was they had some ADA compliance issues in their parking lot.
Anything on El Toro Loco?
So we met with, El Toro Loco, we met with the applicant as well as their contractor team last week with regard to some issues that they were running into. They were running the project, they had plans submitted, however, they were running into issues in the field due to the fact that not a complete assessment was likely done on the building by their architect. They made some assumptions in their building plans that are reviewed per code. And so staff reviews what's submitted as per code. And when you go out into the field, sometimes there's field changes of what's actually in the field, right? And so they've had issues with their some of their trusses in the ceiling as well as their roof. But we had the meeting here last Thursday, and the applicant team was more than satisfied with the results of that meeting, that we had a clear path forward with some of their corrections. So
Any timeline on when they might be opening?
the hope is within the month, as long as weather permits. They, like I said, they have clear direction what they need to do. Some of their improvements will require an engineer stamp on some of their corrections that were identified in the field, but they were already made aware of that. Their architect and engineers team was in the meeting, so they're more than aware of that as well.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anybody from the public with any questions? The Deputy City Manager? Anybody online or on the phone? So with that, we will move on to our next item, which is future agenda items. Do you have any future agenda items at this point? You guys never approved mine anyway. No, I've got a good one for you. You can't turn this down. Certificate of recognition for Richard Figueroa. He won the NCAA wrestling tournament for Arizona State. I really think that we, as a council, should honor Mr. Figueroa with a certificate. Is there a consensus for that?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
Would you like that on the next agenda, Mayor?
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think he's in school, so
Let
let's
me
find out
coordinate-
from
I'll coordinate with
the
this all.
family. Yeah, Sarah knows the family. Councilmember Guerra knows the family.
Thank you.
And then let me just float this. Special events policy, can we revisit that and take a look at some of the costs on special events? Councilmember Trujillo tonight mentioned the, how we don't see pop-ups anymore from our people, our fledgling business owners in town. Can we revisit some of those costs again on the special events policy and the timeline?
Yes.
Or consensus for that?
Is that gonna go through the budget, or is it just put on the agenda, or just to discuss it? Not to change it, or what, I mean, what?
Ultimately, I'd like to look at some of those costs. I think they're a little high for,
Is it because of
too
what we're
high.
discussing in regards to the? Was that not an item tabled? Could we add your discussion on that part?
I guess my question would be to get some clarification of what we're looking at in terms of pop-ups and business license or special event permit, what have you. Are we asking for consideration of a policy related to the special event permit process? Are we asking related to the business license fees related to pop-ups at a special event? I just need some clarity on what's being requested.
all the above, right? Community input
So,
is.
so that's what I'm asking in regards to, Ms. Mayor.
Community input is just, is negative on, not on this policy itself. The clarity's great, but the fees are too high. So if we can fine tune that and take a look at it.
I guess what you brought to us is intriguing, because at the end of the day, it actually gives a job cost, right? We job costing every individual.
In terms of the business license application fee,
Application fee,
absolutely.
yeah. So
And-
could
and-
we,
and
could
with-
we,
If I can, Councilmember, I think when we went through the special event permit ordinance review, we did revise fees as part of that, and we did look at staffing, and we reallocated, and we actually reduced the cost of having special events related to on public property and on private property. So we did reduce the fees accordingly, and we did have that review.
exactly, can you bring that back and we can add it, so we can just do a little presentation, so we can review it, just so we could see how we came about it?
'Cause I get a lot of criticism on that.
But
I
I-
get a lot of community
So
input.
I
that-
will, if I can, I will say, I think we solved a big portion of the issue tonight with the $30 fee for the business license, and then the home occupation. That was the one that was the main problem for the majority of the reasons why the people that participated at pop-ups did not participate.
I
was
also
that.
think,
Yeah.
the same thing, because I think when I was looking at the cost, let's say there's 12 pop-ups in Selma. We don't know. Let's say there's 12 pop-ups. And an individual in Selma comes and says, hey, I'm gonna pay $30 for 12. That's $360, $340, whatever it is, right? But if I go to the city and I'm a vendor and I want to pay one permit for $150 and I have free access to everything
For the full year.
for the full year.
Mhm.
I mean, but that goes back to, hosting it and, telling the community, hey, guess what, right? But that was my reason, the mayor brought it, hey, we should look at these fees. But in reality, I was saying, well, let's look at how we came to the assumption of these fees in the past. Just revisit it, and look at what we propose now and how it's impacting and how much good it's gonna do. Because in reality, let's be honest, one of the big hiccups was, hey, as business owners, I don't have a restaurant no more, but I used to, right? But we pay X amount of dollars, right? We pay and we pay and we pay for all these fees. Well, what's the Joe Blow, or what are they stroking, right? And this gives them, I know we say, hey, and I really strongly apologize, because I know the young lady that paints faces, I see all the good she does, but at the end of the day, the 150 takes care of a lot of, if there's 12 or 18 events, and those pop-up people that are gonna go put a post up, or a little booth and sell flowers or whatever they're gonna do, pay $150, they got free range in the whole city for the whole weekends.
Sorry to be the Debbie Downer, but just a reminder to, we don't want to go too far into
Okay,
discussion on
So
these
can we
items.
talk about special events in the future and clarify it and have this discussion as an agendized item? Is there a consensus to do that? Is that a yes? Wow,
Yes.
okay, yes, let's do it. Anybody else with future agenda items? With that, we'll move on to departmental reports. City manager?
Nothing to report, except just a reminder, our first budget workshop is this Friday morning at 10 a.m. here at City Hall. Looking forward to that. Other than that, nothing else.
You, city attorney,
Nothing to report.
deputy city manager?
I believe I've reported enough tonight, so nothing to report.
Thank you. Administrative services.
Nothing to report.
You. Community services?
Absolutely, I have things to report. Good evening, Mayor and council members again. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update. I want to thank my staff and Public Works for helping. I know Animal Services was out there. Unfortunately, the rain kind of hurt our plans for the extravaganza this past weekend. However, we adapted and we still had photos with the Easter Bunny and gave out eggs and and still, had a great time. So I would really like to thank Liz and her ability to adapt and overcome despite the rain. So kudos to them for that. And then also I would like to let everybody know on April 22nd, we'll be partnering with Home Depot for Earth Day. So from 5 to 7 at Lincoln Park, we'll be having some activities for the kids. Home Depot's going to come out and bring some, help us plant some plants and stuff for the kids. So we're really excited about that. And Brettlinger Park is moving along. Obviously, the rain is not helping. So I'm looking forward to finishing up that project. And then I did want to talk a quick moment about currently our staff is researching. We were notified by the school district that the pool will be closed for the summer for refurbishment. So and for renovations. So we understand the need for that. Right now, we're exploring what all of our options are to bring some other programs during that time. So hopefully we'll be bringing back something to you guys for recommendation into the future. But for right now, that's kind of where we're at with that. And I believe that is all. One last thing, I would just like to thank the exec team for being awesome and being really great supporters. That's all I got.
Sounds good. Real quick, are we having April cleanup day with waste management? Are they having their final cleanup?
I believe they are. Their final, it's in
Anything?
Fresno, correct?
I believe the city clerk may have some information on that during her
Getting
report.
there. Okay, thank you. Fire Chief Jordan Webster.
A couple items to report. The biggest and most exciting thing Friday, we conducted our recruitment process for the position of fire captain. We currently have 3 vacancies out of 6. And one of the 3 that's not vacant is out on injury. So we're in desperate need of some fire captains. So we're very excited. And I just want to take a moment to thank Janie and her staff for all of their support in that recruitment process. Ton of, a couple reams of paper worth, I think, and a lot of binders and a lot of hours. So we look forward to completing that recruitment over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we can introduce some folks in the coming months.
Chief, can I add to your update? The RFP for the fire station design is currently out. And so we expect that to close, I'm blanking on the date, but we've already gotten some questions on that bid. So expect to see something come into council for approval in the next month and a half or so. Sorry, Chief.
The report.
Public Information Officer, City Clerk.
Mayor, council members, and members of the public, as you initially talked about, the Selma Community Drop-Off Week will start Monday, April 15th, and that'll go through Saturday, April 20th. And that will be at at the Waste Management Transfer Station located at 5608 South Villa Avenue in Fresno. So the hours of operation at their transfer station start at 6 a.m. and 6 through 6 p.m. So there are additional hours when they have it at their transfer station. And then, of course, on Saturday, they will also start at 6 a.m. and end at noon. So that information has already been released on social media. Also, the Freeway Caltrans project, they have scheduled lane closures planned for the number 3 lane this Wednesday night and Thursday night, which is April 3rd and 4th, as well as Sunday and Monday night, April 7th and 8th. So we all know that with the closures of the number 3 lane, we'll also have the Second Street off ramp, will cause the Second Street off ramp to be closed. So Caltrans issued a commuter alert, and they will be issuing a revision to that commuter alert advising of the Second Street closure for those 4 nights. And they are nightly closures, and they will occur between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. So the revised alert will notify everyone about, I think initially it said 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And staff they've been receptive to staff's comment about expanding that to 7 p.m., not starting, since we still get commuters coming home at 6 p.m. The other street closure that we have going on is the Valley View Storm Drain Project. So the current phase in that project calls for a street closure on Valley View from Sheridan to McCall. Detour signs are in place, and there's actually two detour options for residents and businesses to utilize. And staff has been working with our Sikh community to remind everyone on the street closures associated with the annual Sikh parade. That's everything I have.
Great, thanks very much. Public Works Director?
Mr. Mayor, council members, only a few things to report. We're continuing to clean the storm drain systems with the Vector truck that we've had rented for the last couple of months. We probably are gonna only continue doing that work until the end of April, and then we're gonna surrender that truck at that point due to the cost impact right now and what we have for budget. In going through that system and doing the work we're doing, we are identifying a lot of dilapidated system, a lot of infrastructure that needs to be addressed. So in going through that, I'm also working with Umabi and Horn, city engineer, on our future CIP projects and prioritizing what we need to be doing with street maintenance and storm drain maintenance. So that is ongoing. We're also, while we're doing that work, we are actively collecting GIS data for our GIS infrastructure system. There's a lot of stuff that's not on the system currently that is in place that we don't have on maps. And there's a lot of stuff on maps that does not exist. So we're going through the process of basically killing 2 birds with 1 stone. We're cleaning the system and identifying infrastructure that needs to be repaired and stuff that is existing, not mapped. The only other thing I have is because of the recent storms, we've had a lot of calls to City Hall about potholes. So we are actively working vigorously to get on top of that. But the rain has caused quite a bit of damage to different areas of town. So that will be ongoing for probably the next month or so. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Police Chief Alcaraz?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Not much to report other than unfortunately our city's been hit by some criminals that are targeting community mailboxes. This is an ongoing issue, and typically this is a seasonal issue when it comes about tax season. We are not alone. Unfortunately, every city in Fresno County, and I'm sure the state, are experiencing these same issues. We're working with the post office to ensure that we get all data and that those victims get to us for a case number for their prospective insurance or whatever it is they may need that case number for. So other than that, that's all to report.
Question, I had a contact from a business owner, Park Street. They make the traffic barriers. Apparently they've had 2 autos stolen from their lot, and they said they have it on network. I can talk to you after the fact with the names. I just don't want to get into too much detail, but they said that they provided a lot of information to PD and PD hasn't followed up, like they've given you the perpetrator. Maybe I can mention the actual name when we're done with the meeting tonight but, okay, all right. And then, in terms of the mailbox theft, yeah, we're one of them. We're one of the victims, my own personal house. So we got video of the car and we sent it over to the officer on the investigation. So hopefully it wouldn't prove anything in court of law, but at least you can be on the lookout for the type of car.
So we, a nearby agency did take someone in custody that fit the description. We are working with other agencies. We have personnel description, vehicle descriptions. So again, these criminals are going throughout the county. So it takes time to develop those cases. We'll do everything that we can.
Isn't that federal? Do you have to let the federal people know, or do they assist, or is there funding for your investigation?
There's no funding for our investigations.
Right.
But it could be federal, it just depends on the nature of the investigation, how that investigation develops. We always work with our federal agencies as best we can because they have more resources than we do. They're able to put things together and have information that we may or may not have. And additionally, we can give them information that they may or may not have. So, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
It's annoying. What I would say is when your mailbox got hit that second night, we logged 100 patrol checks of community mailboxes. So you're talking about a crime that occurs within 30 seconds. You know, it's very quick, and these criminals are very good at what they do. So it's just, it's frustrating for everybody involved, Mr. Mayor.
It is frustrating, and everybody's experiencing the same thing. Thank you for investigating that. Hopefully you take care of that. Get them off the street. That will move on to council reports. Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Mayor, I apologize. I have one more item that was not reported. Our new waste hauler, as of July 1st, Mid-Valley Disposal is hosting a town hall meeting on Saturday, May 11th from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at the Portuguese Hall on Nebraska. And they're also going to be present at several of our community events like the Raisin Festival to provide information about the transition from waste management to Mid-Valley Disposal. So I just wanted to make sure that folks knew well in advance about the Saturday, May 11th town hall meeting.
May
That's
11th.
all.
At what
Yeah,
time?
Saturday, May 11th from 9 to 11:30 a.m. Thank you.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
I don't have much to report. I just wanted to say one happy Easter. I hope everyone had a good Easter. And then, as mentioned, I will be in Washington DC. I'm leaving Saturday and I'll be back next Thursday. And so I'm going in, even though I'm going in the capacity of my work, I'm also going in capacity of a constituent. So that's why I was asking for, information for that. And then I just wanted to thank staff for the SKF workshop and all of the presentations that, you provided, everything. I love to see the city moving forward. And I totally got what you needed as far as mapping for SKF. So just wanted to say great job. Thank you.
Councilmember Trillo.
Not much, but just lots of thank yous. The staff, you guys were dead on in regards to SKF because of the fact that what we're wanting to do, how we're pushing forward in regards to development. Also, I just want to reiterate the fact that, you guys, we're the city council here, and we're really pushing issues as to what we need to do in our community, right? And we meet twice a month, but we understand that you guys either are limited staff, from the department heads to the staffers, right? Thank you so much for everything you guys are doing, because at the end of the day, you guys can just, every morning you guys go to work and you see, and we have these meetings, but at the end of the day, I want to just thank you for all the hard work you guys are doing. We see it. I think the community sees it. We always, change is hard, but at the end of the day, we know that there's a goal, right? And I don't know how to tell you guys, every individual, I thank you especially for representing your city manager and for you guys all together working with the team. You guys show it so good that I'm really proud of you guys, okay? So thank you, and I have nothing else to say.
Councilmember Guerra?
Okay. I attended the fundraiser for the Reyes family, like I mentioned, the two children that were burned in the fire. And I'll tell you one thing, they did interview me in regards to what I had to say, and it was really emotional. But one thing, they did have a wonderful turnout, and what I did say, and I've said it in the past, one thing about Selma is we may have our disagreements and we may not always get along, but when it comes to tragedy, doesn't matter who it is, we come together, we unite. And that's that is Selma. That is Selma. And people were just, they couldn't believe how many people they got out there. So, you know, I just want to tell everyone, and I thank everybody, and people here in Selma are just amazing. And I'll tell you, that's just one thing that we have, and that's our strength. That's our unity, that we come together. So, the other thing, I did attend the, CVTC graduation, and that was a really nice graduation. Oh, and then I met with the superintendent, the high school principal, and one of the board of trustees in regards to harassment and bullying at the high school. And so that was a good meeting. You know, they're looking at what they can do to improve, and they did mention the city, you know, working together, and that's a good thing. You know, that's how we're gonna do things better, is coming together. You know, we may be short, we might fall short on a certain thing, and the school might be able to help us, and then the same with them, you know. They might fall short with, I'm just gonna say, you know, SRO, and maybe the city will be able to help them with that. So those are the good things, you know, just having open dialogue was great. The other thing, I mentioned, I did receive many calls in regards to our NCAA champion, Figueroa, and I'd like to know, I'm thankful that we're gonna give them a certificate, but other than that, they wanted to know if we would do more as a city for him, like a parade or something, and I said I'd mention it during, council. Something like that, you know, he should be recognized, and I think that would be a great idea if we can do something special. I did attend the SKF joint meeting with the council and SKF, and I think, you know, I want to thank our staff. You guys did a great job, and, you know, again, it's another partnership that we're working with, you know, trying to work some things out. And working together is what's going to get us that much further. So I think you guys did a great job. Thank you. And then just on a follow-up note, did we get a follow-up in regards to the corner of 6th Street and 99, or on, you know, where Cali Dogs is and Family Market? Their two corners, their sidewalks haven't been completed, and neither has the Chevron over there on 99 and Floral. Golden State, yeah.
Staff had a meeting with the project engineer, from Mark Thomas, as well as, county representatives regarding some of the PG&E lights, and some of the work that needs to be completed. Some of the sidewalks are on hold while they're still doing some of the PG&E work out there. It's a Rule 16 application, which is not necessarily undergrounding, it's providing services along the frontage.
The other thing I'll add to that real quick is we have signed and executed all of the contracts with PG&E. Those have been since forwarded to the county, and the county will actually be paying those fees for the project. At that point, PG&E will actually put us in the till, so to speak, to start the work. So
Okay.
it's a delay on PG&E's part. We can't expedite that. We've tried everything in our power to do that. So what we have talked to them about is making them a little more travelable and safe, maybe some temporary cold mix. So that is stuff that the county's looking at this time.
So they don't know when it'll get completed. Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, I'd like to thank staff for all your hard work, because we do believe in you. I attended a Kings Basin Water Authority meeting, and they oversee some of the major water projects in the Central Valley. And they did talk about this organization or this commission or whatever they call them might be joining another one for next year. That's the first time I've heard about it in this last meeting. Okay, so. Attended a mixer, SKF mixer. 3 cities got together, and that was a nice turnout also. SKF and the city council joint meeting, I was there also. It's kind of nice to see everybody trying to get to the same page. So it's good. I think, like I say, communication, we learned a lot about communication tonight. So I think that does help.
Just leave it. We're almost done. Yeah, thank you. Are you done?
Okay, and then attended the Central Valley Training Center cohort 12. There was 16 graduation graduates that. So the total of the 12 cohort is 192 graduates so far in our schooling. I did attend the Chamber Awards dinner. That turned out very nice. Citizen of the Year went to Mr. Pete Israelian, so that was really nice, and he was really surprised because he thought his son was going to get it, so he got it. So that was nice. Business of the Year went to Advantage Health. Ag Business went to Harris Ranch. Distinguished Service went to Kiwanis Club of Selma. Junior Citizen went to Jessica Madaora. She was a ROTC student. She was really good. Educator of the Year went to Jennifer McLean, teacher out of the middle school, Abraham Middle School. And I think that's it.
Thank you. And I met as well with the Selma School Board Trustee, Superintendent, and high school principal regarding bullying and harassment issues. I was able to be a guest speaker at the Central Valley Training Center graduation. Always inspires me to see these students that come in. And it's interesting, these workplace programs now are, they're competitive because there are lots of them out there. And now the CVTC is competing, and to be competitive, it's looking at giving stipends to the students instead of just having them come in and just apprentice for free. And the way they will fund it is through this microgrid construction that seems like everybody's talking about. So that's very interesting. It's going to be, I think it will help the Central Valley training program in the future. And it's good to see that they're modifying and they're changing to be more competitive and to get more students. I think that's important for them to do that. And as you saw from the funding's increasing from the high-speed rail program. I went to COG, the carbon reduction program is having a call for projects. Exciting news at the Fresno County Rural Transit Agency. They've entered into an EV charging agreement with PG&E. It's called a Fleet Ready program for their new maintenance facility. I want to thank the city manager for getting that application out for the grant. Very important to get that out, $3 million grant. Got that on a dime. I mean, that was like, we did the graduation that morning, got the letter, and I took it to COG with me that night. So that was great teamwork. I really appreciate that. And I just want to congratulate Anita Gonzalez and Beto's Restaurant for their fundraiser that Councilmember Guerra was talking about at Selma Plaza. They raised $9,000 for burial costs for those 2 kids. And they didn't have that money. So that was nice to see Selma come together. Even though it happened in another city, Selma banded together. They saw the need and wanted to help out and contribute. And that's really a strength of our community. And with that, say good night to everybody, and thanks for coming out, and we're adjourning our meeting.